going to go ahead and kick off this month's Coffee and EVs. We've got a guest speaker tonight, Steve Wellens, who's going to talk a little bit about his new tariff with Appalachian Power that he's gotten set up on, and give us a little bit of how that's worked out for him. But before we do that, we do have a couple new faces. So we've got Amanda Casto, also known as Unknown. So Amanda, if you want to give us just a real quick intro and maybe what you drive and what you're interested in for the group.
I purchased my Mustang Mach-E 4 at the end of July, and I love it.
Awesome.
And I'm a teacher, so I drive over 100 miles a day, and it saves me tons.
And if I recall correctly, I think you're in sort of the north central part of the state?
Yeah, I live in Barber, but I teach in Randolph.
Okay. All right, welcome. Glad to have you. And Mark Pendleton, if you want to give us just a quick intro, maybe what you're interested in or driving or questions you may have.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to see everybody. I'm in Charleston, West Virginia. Currently, I've been driving a Toyota Camry for 14 years, and finally decided to move to something different, and been looking at an electric vehicle for a long time, and said, well, shoot, this is the time to do it. So ultimately ended up with a Hyundai Ioniq 6. Did that in around September, early part of September or so. So just 2 months in ish, and it's amazing how much I've learned about amps and volts and watt hours, and I never thought I would learn that again once I got out of high school. But so it's been kind of a fun journey, short journey, but it's been a fun journey so far.
All right. Well, great. Glad to hear it. Glad to have you with us. Well, I think the first thing we were going to jump into this evening is Steve Wellens has recently taken advantage of the new Appalachian Power tariff that can save you some money on charging your EV. And there's a bit that has to be done to get set up on that, and Steve was going to share his experience and how that's went for him. And Steve, if you need to share a screen or slides or anything.
Well, I do have it as a PowerPoint. I sent it to you. Do you want to run it from here?
Probably can, yeah.
Yeah, why don't you just run it, and if you can't, I can run it from my end, but
find the right email. There it is.
And everyone, if you see something you have a question about, just go ahead and stop. I'll be happy to answer questions throughout the talk if people have questions.
Okay, let me share the screen here.
Amanda, is that a real fireplace you have in the background there? Or is that just a digital thing?
No, it's a background.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, this is a page off of the Appalachian Power site there. I thought we'd start out here. The incentive for going with the off-peak charging is you do get a reduction. If you do the math, it's almost 5 cents a kilowatt hour that you can save with the off-peak charging. And that gives you some idea of the savings there. So if there are no questions on that, we'll go to the next one. Yeah, this is also from their website. This kind of shows you how they envision their customers might set it up. You have the breaker panel there, the breaker box, then there's a special meter, they call it the EV meter, and then it showed the receptacle and charger and stuff like that. So we can go to the next one. this shows you what my this shows you my breaker box at the top, and then it shows the meter base that I picked up from Goldfarb's here in Charleston, and then and I got the various the pieces of wiring and pipe and stuff, and then to the left of the meter base there is my 1450 receptacle, and plugged into that is my Tesla 240 volt adapter with the basically electronics at the bottom, shown at the bottom there. There's a cable. It's not convenient if it's just a drink for the meter, which is one thing there. That's the meter that Appalachian Power brought and installed after the inspection was completed. Also, that piece of paper hanging over there, I've listed all the circuits in the house as to which breakers. That's just some people have write it on their door, their breakers, but I put a lot more detail in, so I know pretty much every light and receptacle in my house, and I know which breaker it runs off of. Any questions at this point?
So Steve, just to clarify, so everything that was installed new for this tariff is just the meter-based meter that's right here, and
Yes.
then this outlet right beside of it, that was all new.
Actually, the outlet I had there before. We've been driving Teslas for about 3.5 years, and that's the receptacle. It just, I had it connected underneath the breaker box just with a conduit through which the number 6 wires ran through. To get onto this special tariff, you have to install the meter base, and then Appalachian Power puts the meter on. The meter base is that gray rectangular panel, and then the meter is pushed onto the.
So you had the receptacle there previously that was just directly connected to your main panel.
That's
so
right.
You rewired it to go then, instead of going to the panel, it's going directly to that meter base?
That's right. You can see 3 screw holes in the drywall just below the meter. That's where the receptacle had been. So I just decided, well, I'll make it just slightly higher since I've got the meter base there. And I just ran it out the side of the meter base. I mean, you could of course run it with conduit or whatever to wherever you like, but it was just easier for me just to attach it to the meter base. And,
all right, gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions at this point? Okay. All right. And then this is also off of the Appalachian Power website. It's just basically, when do the off-peak rates take effect? And it's actually a pretty big window. It's anytime on the weekends. It's anytime for these holidays. And on weekdays, it's from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., Monday through Friday. And then the next part is, if you do use your receptacle to charge your car outside of that, then they basically charge you, penalty, I guess, 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So, but you could just, I have all kinds of 110 outlets in my garage, so I could just plug in my thing into a 110 if I wanted to charge outside of the off-peak rates.
Yeah, the off-peak window, that starting at 8 p.m. seems a little generous. A lot of times, I know in other states it's later when these off-peak rates start.
Yeah. I suspect in other places they give a better discount though for the. I was actually thinking it was going to be like maybe only a third of the price as opposed to the 2/3 that were actually being charged here by Appalachian Power. So.
Question for you, Steve.
Yes, Marty.
I do not believe I have a similar setup than you do with a NEMA 1450 plug going to two cars, but I don't have a GFI on that circuit, and that is a violation of code. I don't figure I need to put a GFI in because I know not to unplug it while the circuit's active. I just flip the breaker, then I unplug it. but you had to have an inspector in. Is that correct? Did he actually look for a GFI on your circuit?
Well,
I'm
sure that he looked at everything, but I don't believe you have to have a GFI on a 240 volt receptacle. I think if you have a 110 receptacle, particularly in a garage or any place where there's going to be wet, like a laundry room, bathroom, you do have GFIs. I have 3 GFI breakers in my breaker box, but the the EV charging is not a GFI circuit.
I thought I read it was, but it doesn't matter. But so it didn't matter. Was there anything else about the inspection that caught you? That's why I've delayed doing mine, because those 240 volt GFIs are $250, and I feel like spending it at the time.
I haven't seen anywhere where there's a requirement that the 1450 needs a GFI. When I bought the receptacle, the breaker and stuff from Gold Farbs, I told them what I was going to use it for, and that was, they didn't say anything about it needing to be a GFI.
Okay,
but there's nothing in the Appalachian Power literature about installing it that requires it be a GFI either that I found.
Okay. Was there anything else that the inspector looked for, or you knew about, or he was? I was just
don't think so. I think I took the panel off so he could look inside of my breaker box, and he thought everything was fine there.
Okay.
And he was real happy with everything I did and stuff like that.
Okay, I just don't want to take my place apart and have to wait for an inspector, and he finds something wrong, and then I've got 2 cars I have to go to the supercharger every day to charge up. So that's been my reluctance. I know I can always charge a 110, but
yeah, well, that's what I did. There was a holiday and a weekend before the city inspector could come. I called on a Thursday, and there was a holiday on Friday, and so he came Monday morning. But the city inspector came basically in terms of business hours. He came within just a few hours of after I called the city to have the inspection come, and you'll see here shortly where they charge you $25 for the inspection of the receptacle. And then the Appalachian Power person that came, he also looked over it as well, and he seemed to be very satisfied with the installation.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you want to know how to get to the place, there is an application you have to fill in to get the off-peak charging started, and you basically go to Appalachian Power and you follow, the home, the clean energy, electric cars, and then you get to the West Virginia off-peak charging. So that's how you, if you want to do this, this is the way you start the process with the application. Okay, next slide. And okay, these are the requirements for getting this. You have to have an electric vehicle. You have to be a home in West Virginia, of course, and you need to have and I suspect most people's electric meters are this advanced meter infrastructure. We have solar panels, and so we have a meter that reads the current that goes both in and out into the grid and what we draw down to the grid, which is fine. It's basically, I think what it means when they have an advanced meter, it means they can read the meter electronically. No one has to come out anymore to read your meter. So any question on what Appalachian Power is looking for here?
No, Steve, but have you looked into other power companies? Because I have Mon Power. I don't have Appalachian Power.
Don't know whether Mon Power offers this or not.
Well,
Appalachian Power offers it.
Power is part of First Energy, and I'm on Potomac Edison, which is also First Energy. And as far as I know, they do not offer anything like this in West Virginia that I'm aware of.
Appalachian Power is offering this not just in West Virginia, but also in the other states. If you go to that site, it also lists Kentucky and Virginia, and I think maybe Ohio also is. So you can, if you're in the AEP's, distribution, I think this is applicable to anybody in that system.
But to Amanda, to your question, definitely contact First Energy and express your interest in such a charging program, and maybe even mention and link to AEP's program and say, hey, AEP offers this. When can I get this?
I'm definitely alone up here in the north central part of the state. When it comes to EVs, I had a guy in town stop me the other day and said, "This is the first one I've ever seen." He said, "Oh, it's pretty."
I would think the AEP in Ohio would be Columbus. Columbus East would be AEP in Ohio.
Okay.
Greg, did you have a question?
Yeah. If I already have a 240 plug in my garage, and I pretty much only charge between like 9 o'clock and 6 in the morning, is this going to be advantageous for me?
I would think so. The meter measures how much travels through the receptacle to charge your car, and it also measures if you're charging your car outside of the off-peak window, it measures that as well. So when the Appalachian Power sends, I guess, queries the meter to see what it was used for, it gets those two numbers back.
Okay.
So if you're doing most of your charging after 8 p.m. at night, Steve, and before 6 a.m., I mean, yeah, you'd get a better rate on that power for charging your vehicle.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't actually gotten a bill yet to see how it's going to be displayed on the bill. I basically got it turned on right at the end of my billing cycle, and that it didn't, nothing was showed up on that bill. I expect to see something show up on the next bill, which will be at the end of around Christmas time.
Well, maybe Steve, when you get that, maybe you can de-identify it a bit and share it out to everybody to kind of see what it looks like.
Yes. And since they just started this, the inspector that came from the city, he said he'd never seen anything like that before. The Appalachian Power person that came and put in the meter said this is the first one in the region that he was aware of. He took pictures to share with his supervisor. So it's possible they still don't have, whether they have all the billing worked out right or not. Well, it's possible that's still being in the process too. So
I'd be interested to see how much it changes your bill. But see, I don't know. I'm on budget, so my bill's the same every month, and I never really look at the breakdown of it that much. But and then Robert knows this too. We have kind of a unique situation in the Hayes Valley and Kanawha Valley area. There's so many. I have probably 6 Tesla chargers within a mile of my house that are free to use. So if I go over to Wendy's and sit and have a hamburger and a Frosty for about 45 minutes, this thing charges at like 37 miles an hour. That's my whole daily commute back to me, just like that.
Oh yeah, well that's the way to go. Unless you're going to go on a trip and you're going to run it up to 100% or something like that, then it would be advantageous probably to charge at home and run it up to 100%.
I expect, Steve, that it'll just be another line item, kind of like our solar panels on our bill, as far as how much you used versus like panels, how much was produced and everything, and just to the consumption and a different rate on that.
Yeah, right now there's a table on like page 3 that has how much I sent to the grid and how much I drew down from the grid. I suspect you're right. There'll probably be 2 more lines that will show how much was EV charged off peak and how much was EV charged on peak and stuff like that. So, but we'll see. what next month's bill looks like. Okay. All right, this is just a summary of the process there. I've sort of already covered a bunch of that. You will get a work order number after the application has been approved. And then that work order number is what you take. If you're going to do the installation yourself, you take that to Goldfarb or State or wherever you would get electrical stuff, and you give that work order number there, and they will give you the meter base. And then you pay for anything else that you need, wire, boxes or whatever. And then when you're finished, then you can get reimbursed that up to the $250. If you have an electrician, if you hire an electrician, then he'll want that work order number to get the process to use to get the meter base and stuff like that. And the city inspector will also want that work order number. That apparently is how, when he sends in his report, that's how AEP tracks the inspection report with the project.
All right, so I do have a question, Steve. The $250 for supplies and $250 for labor. I mean, I know AEP was offering an incentive to buy an EV charger and to have it installed, and they would provide that $250 and $250 if you were using, a certified charger, and you had to use an electrician off of their certified list. Is this the same, or is this like a separate $250 supply and $250 for labor? Do you know? Are you still there, Steve?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. Did you hear the question?
Yes, I think this is a separate 250
Okay.
plus 250 reimbursement there.
Okay, so if you went out and used that $250 to buy a charger through AEP and $250 to have it installed, then you switch to this program, then you could use this again. Okay, well that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. When I put in my charger, my receptacle anyway, I bought the charger came with the car, with the Tesla. Mm-hmm. All I bought from Tesla at the time, this was like 3.5 years ago, was the adapter for the 1450 receptacle. And then I installed all that stuff. And that was like 3.5 years ago. And I think this stuff AEP is willing to reimburse for. It only goes back to like 2021 or so. So I purchased that stuff before I think they started offering that reimbursement program.
All right. Anything else on this slide?
Not unless someone has a question.
Well, I thought we might ask Rap. Is there any program like this in Western Ohio?
No, there is no program like this in Western Ohio because if you remember, First Energy got caught cheating in Ohio, and when First Energy got caught cheating in Ohio, the elected officials canceled all EV programs. And I just looked at AES in Ohio, and they've got a really good EV page, but there's no program listed like that, which you have in West Virginia, in Ohio yet.
Yeah, they paid somebody $1 million, didn't they? It was pretty amazing drive.
Paid the Speaker of the House, and then the Speaker of the House had a bunch of Republicans running under his ticket that First Energy secretly ran them for office, and he got caught. And they're punishing every EV owner in Ohio because of something we didn't do. What can I say?
Gotta love First Energy.
Yep. So because of First Energy, us in the Dayton-Trotwood area, when we talk to our local utility about EV adoption and putting in chargers and giving us incentives based on the Ohio utility, they're not allowed to do that right now. They're not allowed to put in chargers. They're not allowed to sell EVs directly to us or any of that.
Wow. I will say something. I talked to some AEP people about this program, and they think this is a win-win for everybody because they move the load off of peak, which really saves them a lot of money for future capital investments, and they sell more electricity, and the homeowner gets a break on the price, pretty substantial break actually on the price of the power. So all in all, everybody wins.
And Larry, I think you joined a little bit late. Did you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. The meter base, does it have to be installed outside, like near the power meter, your main power meter?
The meter base for this EV meter could be inside or outside, either way. I would just put it inside. It does not have to be outside nor to be read because it's being read digitally. And by putting it inside, it was much more convenient. You saw how close it was to my breaker box and how close the receptacle was to it. So it was just much easier for me, much better, I think, was to put it inside right next to the breaker box.
Another question, if you're mainly solar powered, is there any advantage to this having one of these meters put in?
Well, if I have solar panels, but it doesn't generate enough to cover both the electric car and the house. My solar panels, when I put them in 2016, were sized enough for the house, but I typically use about 4,000 kilowatt hours a year in the house, but the electric vehicle uses 3,000 or 4,000 kilowatt hours a year. So I would have to basically double my panels, solar panels, to have more than enough. So for me, it reduces my electric bill. Probably will reduce my electric bill, which typically runs around $50 to $75 a month. By, I'm guessing, probably 15 or 20%.
Right, but I understand your question, Larry. I mean, because I make more power than I use, and I have a huge credit on my bill. So, I'm not eligible for something like this because I'm not with AEP. But if I was, it wouldn't work out for me because I generate more power than I can use anyway.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm self-powered 7 or 8 months out of the year and have a reduced bill. You get into January, February, I still use a fair amount of power.
I think that's about where I'm going to be, is somewhere in February or so, work off my credit that I've built up since the 1st of July. I haven't yet gone through a whole year yet.
This is Mark Pendleton. So I'm fascinated with this whole thing. I'm very new to this, and I apologize. And please be kind. And
hey, it's all we're here for.
We are.
So my accounting background is in accounting, and certainly not in electrical engineering or any kind of electrical background. And I'm trying to like I said, just a couple months into this whole process, and it's been wonderful so far. And I'm certainly kind of a baby stepping this thing. Is I guess my question, if I really know what my question is guidance on. Is this, like going back to the baby steps, is this something, hey, maybe I should just kind of wait a little bit and see what's going on? I mean, I've certainly, my full disclosure, I have installed the home charger and taken advantage of the AEP $500 credit for that, for the equipment and the installation. So I guess my question.
I think your question is should you jump right into now moving forward with AEP to try to get this reduced tariff? And really that's kind of, it kind of depends on your comfort level, and do you want to spend some more to make those changes now? But as Steve mentioned, this is kind of a brand new thing for AEP, and the AEP person and the inspector was like the first time they've looked at one of these, and he hasn't even got his first bill yet. So, I mean, I would understand if you might want to wait just a few months and kind of see how it shakes out and what the actual difference is. It also kind of depends on how much you drive your car and how much energy you're using in the car, and like what kind of a savings would you see. And that kind of comes down to your usage and how many kilowatt hours a month are you using in the car.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out that whole thing on average as well. Certainly, I think we used the car more initially than we may have otherwise, just because it was new and fun. And hey, let's give it a try and hey, let's go take a spin, kind of thing.
Well, you might want to just kind of track your usage and see how much and average it over some time after, the newness wears off, see how much you're actually using, and then kind of compute what your savings might be with a program like this, and then look at moving forward.
Yep.
The only thing is you'll be limited by charging at night. And if that's an inconvenience or anything like that, that's something to consider. We have 2 cars, and keeping them both charged all the time when we regularly drive out of town. Sometimes my wife goes one way and I go the other. So it could be a little bit of an inconvenience if you get up in the morning, I forgot to charge. Well, you're going to pay a penalty for that if you forget to charge overnight. So that's a consideration. But I think for most of us, if we can figure out how to drive a car, we can figure out how to charge it at night.
And of course, the weekends, you can charge on the weekends as well, anytime on the weekends. So.
Rap, did you have a question?
Yeah. I wish we had it in Ohio, because I'm telling you, our family has 2 ID4s, and we keep them up to 80% every night, and we charge from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. So if we had this, it would benefit us immensely. We don't have it, so I'm extremely jealous. So if you can do anything to help us move it to Ohio, we'd love to help on that.
Rap, you're welcome to come over here to West Virginia and plug into in my garage.
I'd like that. A bit far away from me.
All right, Steve. So I think you had a slide here about being inspected.
Yeah, this is typical. This is just to show you what the inspector, at least, I guess if you're not in the city of Charleston, you'll have a different inspector. But anyway, this is just to kind of show you what the inspector's report looks like. And also I wrote a check for $25 for the inspection. So, but the AEP, I believe, will reimburse me for that. They're processing my paperwork now, so we'll see how that all works out in another week or so. Is there another slide after this? Yeah, there is. Okay, that's just to give you some perspective in terms of how much you might expect to save and stuff like that. So I say an annual savings of maybe $200 if you're driving 12,000 miles off of your home charging. If you take trips and you're using superchargers or whatever, then that's separate. And of course, that's much more expensive than charging at home. So. And if you have two vehicles, especially if you're doing it with something like a 1450 receptacle, you could charge both vehicles. I've seen there are things you can put on that 1450 receptacle that allows a splitter, so you could actually put 2 cables onto it. Or maybe you could just run 2 1450 receptacles off in the meter base, and then you could charge 2 cars at once that way if you like.
That's what I do. I use a product called NeoCharge, and it actually tracks. You get an app on your phone. You can track which one's charging and how much you charged last month and stuff.
Okay.
I wish I only used 4,000 kilowatt hours a year.
All right. Any other questions for Steve? All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing your experience and some data. And yeah, definitely we'll be interested to see what your bill looks like after you get that from AEP.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. I'm going to stop presenting. All right. So as far as just our normal coffee and EVs topics, does anybody have anything specific? I think Rick Walker joined just a minute ago. Are you with us, Rick?
Yes.
There he is. So we were just wrapping up talking about the AEP metering, and so Rick, I think you wanted to kind of give just a real quick update on what's going on with the Rural Reimagined program and the loaners in the state, and kind of, I think that's just now kicking off, isn't it?
Yes.
Or John may have kicked it off first. I don't know what you and John are both working with.
We're pards.
We're what, John? We're
pards.
Partners.
Partners. Pards.
Yeah, John gave the first vehicle out. I'm giving one out this Saturday. We were each given the opportunity to drive the vehicle for 2 weeks to learn about it so that we could teach the others. But there's been a lot of logistics things that John and I have picked up that they haven't. Just a couple of quick ones. When you sign up to do that, it asks you to put in an emergency contact. And my name was there. And I said, well, I don't want to be. I don't want my wife's. It wouldn't let me change it. So I called him and said, I can't be my own emergency contact. Oh, we never thought of that. We'll change that. And there were 5 or 6 things that John and I have. We said, well, you're going to give them a $350 EVSE. In fact, 2 of them, but there's no way to mark whether they were there when they brought it back. So we designed for them and for all of you as well, a checklist when they bring it back. Is this here? Is this here? Is there any broken glass? Is there any damage? Now they're tracking all these cars with a dongle in the OBD port. So they know exactly where they are, how many miles they've driven. They said, you don't need to write down the odometer, but we've thought of some other things. And then the latest effort, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we worked out a kind of a goal sheet, because they were just going to have you hand the keys and the knowledge of where to find the owner's manual to these people and let them go. And then after 2 weeks of experience, they're going to give the car to the next person and teach them how to do it. We said, you're not going to get good data then, but we can't be available for 2 years every 2 weeks to make the exchange. So they haven't quite figured out how they're going to do that. But we did work on a printed goal sheet to give to them that says, number 1, be safe. Number 2, have fun. Here's what we'd kind of like you to try. We'd like you to charge mostly at home, but we want you to make 1 trip where you have to charge away from home and just see how you like that. And then be sure you bring back this, and this. Make sure the registration and the insurance card are in the glove box. My vehicle is printed all over the side of it with Rural Reimagination and the QR code in the back. John's doesn't have that yet.
No.
Mustang. But my Volkswagen ID has that on the back of it. So anyway, we're learning a lot, and kind of by the seat of our pants, we're flying. So we hope that you and John Ayers and Larry will benefit from what we've kind of said. And Max is wonderful, let me tell you. But I don't think Dr. Chen is with us. He's not as rapid to respond to your requests. And so Max sent an apologetic letter to John and me today, says, well, that's a great idea, but I don't get to make that decision, and I'll put it on his desk, but it may be 3 months before you find out the answer. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But John, you said it took about 45 minutes to make the switch over, and my guy's going to meet me at 4:30 this Saturday. One of the problems, Bob, that we've had is they haven't decided exactly how they're going to make this transfer. The guy with me is Hurricane. That's no problem. I drive halfway in between and he meets me, except I got a way to get back home. So now I've committed my wife for 2 years to every other Saturday driving me somewhere at somebody else's time choice. And that person, John said that her dad brought her and then took the car back. So they had it, but we have to do it at each end of the line, unless I can.
Yeah, but Rick, let me butt in
Please.
here. If the other person comes close to the same time, you or me could just drive ourselves, check out the car, and then hand off to the second person if it's like within the hour or something. See what I'm saying?
No,
Sorry,
how do I
why?
get back home? If I drive 15 miles,
Well, you're not taking the car back. You're taking your own car back.
How
You
did my
just-
own car get there?
You drive to the pickup. We're working all this out, folks.
I think what he's saying is that you need all three
The-
of you. You need the old driver, the new driver, and you to show all up at the same time.
Right.
So you never have to get the vehicle back. You immediately just
Right.
hand it off to the next.
Yeah,
person.
you maybe have it for an hour or two, maybe, check it out. If you have to, take it to the car wash or something, but then hand it off to the other person, and you wouldn't need your wife there to pick you up. That's what I'm planning.
Yeah. So I drive, but tell me again, I drive the Volkswagen to this place. We're going to make a transfer.
Yeah, the person shows up, the old person, you check out
Right.
with her. About an
Right.
hour later, the new person shows up.
Right. But she has to have somebody to drive her back home.
Right, but we don't need somebody.
With somebody to drive them back home. How do I get back home?
In your own car.
I don't
You
have my
came
car
there.
there. I have the
You
Volkswagen.
do. No, you don't, because the old
Okay.
person.
Well, we don't need to work all this out here. Yeah, this is a beta test process. We can tell the bugs are being worked out. But I'm sorry for some of the new folks on the call who may not understand what we're kind of talking about real quick. This is a federal grant program through Tennessee Tech. And they won an $8 million Department of Energy grant they provide both electric vehicles for education and for projects and electric vehicle charging, and they're doing that through all of Appalachia. So it includes, West Virginia, parts of Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, all of Appalachia. So this program that they're doing is they're providing loaner electric vehicles to participants who sign up to use those vehicles for a couple weeks. And so we've got some volunteers on our side who are trying to help with some of the logistics of moving the vehicles around from one participant to the next participant. But as you can tell, it's new and there's a lot of little issues to work out. But it's a great program to allow folks to experience an electric vehicle with no strings attached. You don't have to go to a dealer, and you can actually use it in your day-to-day life for a couple of weeks and see how it's going to work. So that's the good side of it. But that's what we're talking about, is that program, and it's just kind of getting started up here in West Virginia on the EV loaner side. But we are also looking for EV charging to come out of that. So we will see more EV charging, both fast charging and level 2 charging for other vehicles. Mostly would be focusing on probably non-Teslas like CCS charging in the state, which of course we need all the CCS charging we can get
But
here.
not very fast. He's only going to go up to 50 kW.
Yeah, it's better than level 2, but not super fast.
If I could make a quick point on that.
Yeah, John.
Our county commissioner is involved in this program too. One of our county commissioners, we're getting a DC fast charger installed in Hinton, and we need an electrician, by the way, to do the work. They can't find one, so if anybody knows of one, let us know. But they are providing a DC fast charger, and I think 2 different level 2 chargers for the county.
Well, we should talk to DC America. Maybe they could hook us up with somebody.
I'm sure DC America could provide someone.
Dixon, because DC America, if they don't sell it to them, they're not going to invent and install.
Dixon Electric. Yeah.
Nathan. Yeah.
Nathan.
John, I'm sure that Nitro Electric down here would have electricians be able to do it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I might talk to you.
I know the
afterwards.
president of the Nitro Electric.
Uh-huh.
I can give you a
An
contact
electric
there.
company in your area could do it for you. I mean, there should be somebody very easily in the state that could do it for you very easily.
Yeah, in the state, in our county, there's not that many skilled electricians, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So we're a small rural county in the southern part of the state. But I'll follow up with Larry here.
All right, great.
I don't know if everyone knows, but Kelly Bragg has already retired.
Oh, I did not know that.
She was going to go to the end of the year, but apparently her request to put an EV to expand this program to somebody in state government and to get an EV for the director of the energy department to drive really hit a nerve in state government, and she retired early because she was getting a lot of evil eyes or something. So she retired 2 weeks ago. Kelly's gone. I hope we can get her involved in our group here. She was a great asset to us for 5 or 6 years at least. I'm going to miss her.
I thought she just had enough sick time built up that she told them I'm leaving December, but then she said, I'm taking my sick, but you know better than I, Marty. So
I talked to her. She sent an email, said, see ya. And I called her right away, and she said she's just leaving because of, she may have had the sick time.
Yeah,
I don't know. Right. But she said, I'm leaving today because I'm not being treated nicely as I leave. So it's very sad.
She angered the gods of coal.
No. Yes. And it makes no sense because she was in West Virginia, where do you make your electricity? You make it from coal and you sell more coal. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Coal.
Now, let me point out as a retired state employee that if you get 10 months in of the year, the first 10 calendar months, that counts for a whole year in terms of your pension. So each month counts 1/10. So once you get to 10, once you get to Halloween or even most of October, that's enough to give you the whole, for purposes of your pension, that's enough for a whole year. Now, of course, you don't get if you leave Halloween, you don't get the salary you would have gotten in the November, December. However, there's use it or lose it with respect to annual leave. So you got to weigh all these things together.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of factors, but she had planned to go through the end of the year. But I know that once you're ready to go, if you're getting all kinds of flack, you say, all right, that's enough, I'm done, and I can walk out the door at any day if you've got your paperwork in order. So it sounds like her plan sounds like was to go to the end of the year, but she got kind of pushed out the door early. But that's sad to hear, since she wanted to stay to the end of the year. But anyway, appreciate that update, Marty. Any other? I know we're getting kind of short on time. We've got about 10 minutes left. Go ahead, Rap.
I was going to pass on my. Oh, go ahead, Rap.
Couple things. If you remember last year, we did the Cincinnati Auto Show. We did it in front of 20,000 people with Drive Electric Cincinnati. We're going to do it again this year. It's a 4-day event in Cincinnati in front of 20,000 people again. That's going to be March 14th to the 17th. And we wanted to invite y'all, if you wanted to come up and help us do a day. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's really interesting because it'll be a section of only electric cars. And we're going to have a big display and literally talking to people about EVs and why they should drive electric vehicles. The only issue is there'll be no Teslas on the floor. There'll be all non-Teslas. But we still felt it was important to talk to 20,000. So it's basically the Ohio, Kentucky Dealers Association.
Dealers Association.
Right, we know.
So we felt that it was real important to at least be in front of 20,000 people and promote EVs. So if a group of you would like to come up together and work with us, we'd love to have you. So I wanted to mention that now because it's a couple months away. And finally, from Drive Electric Dayton to Drive Electric Cincinnati, I wanted to wish you a happy holiday. And it's just really cool to be able to check in with the group and see what you're doing in West Virginia. And to be totally honest, the last place I expected there to be a group promoting EVs was West Virginia, and you proved me that I'm wrong. So I'm very proud of all of you. Means a lot.
Well, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Rap.
Thank you, Rap.
You're welcome, my friends. And I know most of you drive Teslas and not Volkswagen ID4s like we do, but it's still very, very cool to know you exist. And I don't know if you know it, but I just came back from California. Plug in America gave me an award for all the that we're doing in Ohio. So that award is actually, it belongs to all of you too, because they don't realize how hard it is to promote EVs in our part of the country. So I just wanted to let you know a piece of that award that they gave me belongs to all of you as well.
Yeah, congratulations on that, Rap.
So while you're in California,
really.
did you get sick of seeing EVs?
The coolest thing is everybody in California drives Teslas, right? And they drive Tesla S's and Tesla Y's. So the whole time I was out there, I was in a Tesla, and they took us to about 3 different Tesla charging stations. So they're in garages, and there are hundreds of these chargers and hundreds of people with Teslas, and you feel like you're in a beehive because cars are buzzing, right? And they played a really dirty trick on me. They took my wife and they said, "You don't drive a Tesla." And she went, "No." And they said, "Let us show you how easy it is to charge a Tesla." So they actually let her charge a Tesla and let her. She said, "Grandpa, I thought you said Teslas weren't good cars." I said, "I didn't say that. I said, we own ID4." She said, "Our next car, young man, is going to be it." So anyway, my wife is pushing me to add a Tesla to our, since we only drive electric cars now. So
she was corrupted, huh?
I don't know. She's really on my case about a Tesla Y. So what?
Definitely the dark side.
Well, a lot of people in Dayton and Cincinnati drive Teslas too. So as the president of this organization, I don't get to pick sides anymore. I don't care what you drive as long as it's electric.
As long as it's got a plug on.
You got that right. And if it's a hybrid, we don't want to talk to you. So congratulations, young man, for moving to the right side of the world.
All right. Well, I had a few news articles I was going to highlight tonight.
Thank you.
So speaking of Teslas, with the next big Tesla thing that's coming up this week, and I know whether you love it or hate it, it's going to be a thing for a while, is the Tesla Cybertruck. So they've got some of those out in the stores. I don't know if anyone's seen any one of those or has seen one in real life yet, but I know there are some out there in some of the stores, and that's being released in a couple days. We'll get the launch event on November 30th.
I got to see 2 of them.
Robert, can I make a comment there?
In Austin.
Go ahead. Yeah, and Greg got to see some when he was down in Austin.
I was a fairly early reservation holder for a Cybertruck. I turned in a reservation. I went back and looked at it. I turned in a reservation 11 days after the reveal, and but I was still at over 360,000 in line.
Well, it'll be interesting to kind of see, because I know it's a very polarizing design, and I've told a lot of people, whether you love or hate the design, and I'm not too keen on the exterior styling myself, but the real magic of that vehicle, from what we've seen announced, is not so much the styling or even the stainless steel exterior. It's what's underneath. And 1,000-volt electrical architecture will be the first of its kind in this industry. 1 megawatt DC charging will be the first of its kind in the industry. A 48-volt accessory architecture will be the first of its kind in the auto industry. So the advancements in the technology and the infrastructure that goes into that vehicle, including the large gigacasts larger than any other vehicle that Tesla makes or anyone makes. So there's going to be some I'm interested in more in the technology that underpins that vehicle, and then how does that trickle down to other vehicles. So that'll be the interesting thing for me.
Yeah, I want to hear a good explanation of how you charge a 1,000-volt battery at a 400-volt.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they do that.
Yeah. Please go up in voltage, please. I
All right,
imagine,
go ahead, Marty.
I imagine it's something like the way my DeWalt batteries will run either 20 volts or 60 volts, depending upon which pins you use, and you can probably charge it at a lower voltage, and then it'll run at the higher voltage because it'll basically break the battery into segments while it's charging.
Which is what GM did with the Hummer EV, or something similar. So I'm sure they've got a scheme in place so they can use the older chargers.
I can't imagine carrying a DC to DC converter big enough. Geez, that would weigh 300 or 400 pounds in itself, big enough to handle a megawatt.
I saw this blurb from Hyundai. They got a new their N line, which is their real sporty models. They've got an N series of the Ioniq 6 coming, which is kind of neat. I like to see, it's not, a lot of people have a certain opinion of electric vehicles as sort of glorified, golf carts, and Tesla owners know that's not the case. Most EV owners know that's not the case, but it's nice to see actually sport-focused models that are going to be all electric. So, kudos to Hyundai for, bringing out a specialty sport-focused model of the Ioniq.
I've seen quite a few Hyundai's the sixes around, and they're really beautiful. I'm the Kias as well. I think they're going to pose a real challenge to other manufacturers. I think Hyundai and Kia have really hit a home run with their electric cars.
With the technology and the styling, I really like those. The piece once they switch to NACS or have an adapter, so they can use the supercharger network. And they get the issues with the 800 volt versus 400 volt. Squared away. That's really going to be an interesting battle.
Hey, did you tweet the chief Twitter about Magic Dog?
Oh, I did do that. So Marty wanted us to drop a note to Elon and to I also tagged Tesla charging. So I sent a note on Twitter to what used to be the platform formerly known as Twitter. I sent a note to Elon and Tesla charging about Magic Dock installation on some West Virginia superchargers. The V3 superchargers, what was it, Marty? Princeton, Flatwood, or Sutton, Flatwoods, and Morgantown?
Yeah.
So I haven't heard anything back, but yes, I did send that note.
Is that new one in Ripley a V3 also?
Yes.
Yes, but it's half broken.
Oh, gosh.
Sounds like they're still working on it.
Yeah, only the cabinet 2 works. Cabinet 1 doesn't work, so it's only 4 out of the 8. I was there last night.
Do you mean there's actually a broken Tesla charger someplace in the world?
Well, it's a brand new one that they've been bringing up, and so it's only half of it's been brought up, apparently.
No, come on, there's no such thing as a broken Tesla charger.
Yes, there are.
Yes, there are.
Yes,
they're rare, but they exist.
But when you put up 8, if 1 or 2 doesn't work, who cares?
That's the position of Electrify America too.
Yeah, they're not broken.
I've a broken Tesla charger in my life.
They're never broken very often.
I will say in 5 years of or more than 5 years now of driving a Tesla, I have never personally experienced a broken charger or sight.
Okay.
So it is a rare thing. I'm sure it has, especially people like Marty and Scott who do a lot of long distance travel. I'm sure you guys have run across them, but
I think I can count the number of pedestals that we've seen on 1, maybe 2 hands, and we've charged it well over 200 different sites. And the run up to Wisconsin, we visit a lot of them the same, and we sometimes see that they've expanded things, like Richmond, Indiana expanded. So keep going.
What do the N models and Plaid models and Lucid models do for the concept that only super rich people can afford an EV, and that the other people are not even thinking about them or looking at them because they think it's just a bunch of rich, super rich people, not just rich people, but really rich people that are driving them? And that model, N model of the Hyundai, it ain't 40,000, I guarantee you.
No, it isn't. But those vehicles like that are like the Corvette, and traditional sports cars are halo cars. Most people aren't going to buy them, but it allows a manufacturer to kind of show off. It's a halo vehicle. It's a vehicle people aspire to. They like the idea of the performance. Now, of course, people would go into a showroom and look at a Corvette and then, walk out with a Cavalier. But, that's the purpose of those vehicles, is to attract people, excitement. But yeah, it's not really they're not going to sell a lot of them.
That brings up a pet peeve. I wish that journalists and car companies would state the median price of EVs, not the average price, because when they do the average, they get up with the S's and the plaids and everything. So
Yeah.
I wish I could find reliable data on the median price. I haven't been able to find it.
Yeah, because for every plaid they sell probably 100 base entry-level Model 3s.
Yep.
Are we gonna see $25,000 Teslas in my lifetime?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So,
Yep.
same as you see the $35,000 Model 3s.
Well,
They'll be
the
35 by the time they come out.
Tesla's got a ways to go down on their price chain to compete with the other car companies. They've got all their legacy costs. Tesla doesn't have it, and they've been making a lot of money on the
Well,
ones.
it's going to be a smaller car, smaller battery, and probably made in Mexico at that new Gigafactory.
Yeah.
So that'll be the ingredients to get down to that level.
I thought they were going to initiate it in Berlin.
That's what they said. They said they're going to.
I've seen Berlin, yeah.
Yeah.
But for the North American market, I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to ship them from Berlin. They
No,
would have
no.
to be built on the continent, so it'll be built in Mexico.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree
you'll-
with Robert.
Yeah, I think you'll see it in about 3 years, and it'll be about 28,000, be my guess.
Well, Volkswagen just announced they're going to make a $25,000 EV and sell them only in China.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, the real challenge for everybody is when the Chinese arrive in the North American market.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're gonna aim. You're gonna see BYD and Geely and NIO and some of those guys opening up plants in Mexico, so they can take advantage of the North American trade agreements and the federal tax credits that they'll be eligible for by building those vehicles in Mexico. So they'll build batteries and they'll build vehicles on this continent, and then it's going to be on with the legacy manufacturers, and they're talking about they can't afford to compete now. Just wait. It's going to be real interesting.
Exactly. And what I'm really looking forward to from helping the climate is that they get significantly cheaper than pretty much most of the gasoline powered cars. So those will go out of favor real quick. And with the charging across the country with the Tesla superchargers, people are going to start flocking to them.
Yeah, there aren't enough.
Yeah.
Yep. A couple
Have you
other
seen
things
the
I was going.
new,
Oh, well, go ahead.
How long
Have
did
you seen the
wait
new
to
V4
charge you to-
superchargers, Scott?
I'm sorry?
Have you seen any of the new V4 superchargers?
No.
They're really nice. They have the cable on them is about 4.5 feet longer. They're tall. They have an optional screen on them, touch screen for non-Tesla users to put their credit card information in. Look really nice.
I'll have to look for one in the next trip we make, maybe at Christmas time, go a little out of the way to find one.
Yeah, there's only 2 or 3 in the country.
I may not go that far out of the way. It's between here and Wisconsin for us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there aren't any there. I think there's one in Georgia somewhere.
All right.
And up in the Northeast somewhere.
I wish I'd known about the one in Georgia because we got our son off the AT in early November, but it's probably around Atlanta and we didn't get that far. Keep going, Robert.
I think it is. I think it is around Atlanta, greater Atlanta area.
Did you have something?
When you're traveling, do Tesla people have to wait in line to charge? That's my other question.
Rarely.
I never have.
waited.
Never. I never have.
I did a 9,000-mile trip coast to coast, and we had to wait 2 places for 5 minutes for a pedestal to open up. And I tell people about that, and I say, how long have you waited in gas lines sometimes? And they shake their head and say yes. And so that conversation ends.
In 5 years, I pulled up, took the last stall once. That was the closest I ever got.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times. Taking the last stall.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple other news items. Ford lost a lawsuit in, I think it was Illinois or Indiana, one of those two, where dealers were basically suing them to not have to put in EV chargers, and Ford lost that, and so now they've made that optional. And so I saw this blurb where now I guess 400 dealers have basically dropped out of that program to install EV chargers at their dealers. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I have mixed feelings about EV chargers at dealers anyway. I mean, obviously, if you're going to sell electric vehicles, you have to have a charger to charge new vehicles and after service, obviously. But as far as installing a whole bunch of chargers because you think the public's going to come there and want to charge, I don't know about that.
We have an unknown hand raised.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yes, when I stopped in to have my car serviced at the Ford dealer, I said, "Why don't you have Ford chargers at a Ford dealership?" And he said, "What, you think we're made of money?"
The answer to that would be yes.
At least you got to have chargers to make sure they're charged for delivery and after service.
So that's poor advertising, boys.
Yep, indeed. All right, so then the other news I had was New Jersey has followed California. I guess they're banning ICE-powered vehicles starting in the sale of new ICE-powered vehicles starting in 2035. So they're kind of tagging on with what California's doing.
Oh boy!
So that's kind of that's becoming more of a thing.
I'll have to tell my wife. She's a New Jersey girl.
Yeah. The other thing I thought, this is not really EV related, but I saw this and I thought it was really interesting from a heavy duty vehicle standpoint. They've got these electrified trailers that they're using. So basically you can turn any semi into a hybrid, whether it's electric or whether it's diesel or CNG or whatever it is. You put a trailer that has basically its own battery and propulsion system on the trailer so that it can, regenerate the battery as you're going down a hill in the trailer, just like an electric vehicle would. Or it can help, provide power to push the vehicle up the hill or steady state cruising. So you can get better gas mileage out of a diesel truck or, extend the range of an electric truck. So anyway, I thought that was kind of neat. I don't guess I've seen that implemented anyway.
Well, did you hear that Winnebago is going to have a trailer? They'll do the same concept, feed power
for a camper trailer.
Yeah, for pull behind trailer.
Very nice.
Airstream also.
One very interesting presentation I saw yesterday was that in New York City, Flow Charging and the power company Con Ed have combined to install over 100 curbside level 2 chargers all over the city. And so in New York City, most people don't have garages and don't even have a driveway. You're able to charge your electric car. This was recorded in September. They had 116 plugs at 50 different locations all around New York City, and they're going to roll out more. But, there's 8 million people in New York City, so it's not doing, it's like a drop in the bucket. But I thought it was pretty interesting. They arranged them right along the curb so there's no tripping worries about running an extension cord out from your apartment.
I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's always been in Europe, like the UK and London and European countries. But I had not seen that New York was doing that.
Oh, speaking of Europe, that son I told you about finished the AT. He's in Iceland, and what was he presented with when he went to rent a car? A plug-in electric gas hybrid for his short stay there. So
we're seeing more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly when I go to Dallas in April, I'm going to get a Model Y or equivalent as my rental car.
Good for you.
So I don't know what the equivalent would be, but that's going to be interesting.
Porsche Taycan?
Porsche Taycan.
Hey, that'd be all right.
I think Hugo starts with a Y.
Oh, yeah.
Just has to have a Y in the name somewhere.
Are you renting it through Hertz?
No, it's through Budget Rent-A-Car.
Is that right?
Be careful because a friend of mine They promised him an electric car. He got to the rental agency, and there were no cars whatsoever of any type.
Wow.
Well, I've
Oh,
had that happen.
Lord. Oh boy.
All
Well,
right.
it's
Well,
supposed to
we're
be
about
right there in the airport.
Well, they
about
were
10
at the
after
airport.
8.
There were no cars, so be careful.
Ooh.
So we're about 10 after 8. Any last minute things before we sign off?
I just want to thank the new folks that showed up, Tom and Amanda. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you back again.
Yeah, and spread the word if you know anybody else
Yeah.
who has an EV or would like to join, learn some more.
You betcha.
Feel free.
I'm glad I'm
Happy
not
holiday, my
alone.
friends.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are not meeting in December. We decided to forego that since it kind of falls right between all the holidays. So we'll see everybody back in January.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas
All right.
and Happy New Year. All right.
Thanks everyone. Merry Christmas.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.